Didi, let's start with a subject that's beginning to drive me, and I think a lot of fans, mad. The mistakes referees and assistants are making, and the case that could be made for TMO, a third match official. The Manchester City-Liverpool game at the weekend, there were 2 penalties in one incident that City should have had. Milner tripped Sterling about 2 feet from the goal, and in the same move Klavan grabbed hold of Aguero and stopped him scoring. No penalty given. Liverpool get out of jail. What did you think of that game for a start?
Well, I think it was a brilliant game to watch. We've seen a lot of dire games in recent months in the Premier League, but I think the game on Sunday was as exciting as I've seen in a long time. Maybe if you're involved with one of the teams, maybe a little bit too open at times, but it was end-to-end. Both teams had chances to win the game, and I think it was a brilliant game, and for once, really an advertisement for the Premier League, because, as I said, we've seen some dire games who were very entertaining. So I think it was brilliant to watch. Coming back to these 2 incidents, Klavan brings him down. I'm not sure about Milner. He slightly touches Sterling. I think Sterling got to be more determined. Maybe go with his other foot. He's got to put the ball over the line. And I don't think, me personally, I wouldn't have given a penalty for Milner's challenge, because I don't think there was enough contact. And I said that in the past. If we give for every contact in the box, outside the box, free kicks, it'll be stop-start all the time.
What did you Klavan, yes, Klavan did pull Aguero back.
Yes, he did. But then again, this is probably one of the more obvious ones. We have loads of penalty incidents where I think a lot of us disagree whether it was a penalty or not. And I just think if you start bringing that third match official or the fifth or whatever you may call him, who sits upstairs and looks at the video, if you bring him in for foul play, I think it opens a can of worms, because there's so many incidents where half the people think it's a penalty or a foul, half the people don't. And I think it undermines the authority of the referee. We had an incident where a penalty was given, I think, with Barcelona a couple of weeks back, where the third, or the guy behind the line, did give the penalty, and I think it was a very controversial call. So I think if you want to bring it in, offside, offside, so I don't even know what else you can do. So I'd be very, very careful bringing these things in, because if you look at tennis or even American football, every play is a set piece, and football, I think, is most watched by people all over the world because it's a flowing game. So I'd be very careful bringing this video technology in.
Liam, I would argue that if it doesn't mess up cricket, tennis, rugby union, in fact it enhances it, in my view, because you know that you're going to get it at the truth, you're going to get at the facts, and justice is going to be done.
Well, I would say, Eamon, that probably football is a far more complex game to have that kind of technology. I think in rugby, you're judging whether the ball's over the try line or on the try line. I think in cricket you can look at stuff again and see if the batsman's nicked the ball or it's LBW and so forth clearly from the camera. But in football, we can have different opinions, can't we? We can, we might watch a match, let's say, when we're doing it for RTE, and I'll say that was a penalty, and you say, no, it wasn't. And then sometimes you see the video footage, and still we're not clear, So I agree to some way with Didi that where, if you bring it in, where does it stop and where does it start, Are you going to have video technology for throw-ins and for corner kicks that have led to a goal and so forth?
Well,
there's one good point. There's one good point that I read in the paper yesterday about Michael Oliver's performance. Is that, like players, maybe he was fatigued. Maybe he wasn't as sharp as he could have been. He refereed the game on Monday, the Manchester United game on Monday, and then he went off tripping into Turkey to referee Besiktas in the Europa League, and then he's back to referee, a big match against, between Man City and Liverpool. And maybe the guy is not as sharp as he should be, and I think the people who are appointing referees need to look at that,
Well, let me put a point to both of you. First of all, I don't accept really that American football, for example, in American football and in rugby union, it isn't just used to decide tries. In rugby union, a forward pass, an infringement, a dangerous tackle, all of these things come into the equation. And in American football, which I watch all the time, it's always going to be the right call. And, where there's a doubt, well, there's a doubt, but they tend to favour the decision on the field. But why must we go on? Because it seems to me, Didi,
there's lots of fouls. For example, in football, there's so many different fouls. There's so many different ways to foul a player, isn't there?
Yeah.
Are we going to have a situation where out the field, let's say on the halfway line, we need to see video technology if that was a foul?
No.
It was a foul. If it was a foul meriting a yellow card, it was a foul meriting a red card. This is what the danger is. This is once you start, you'll never stop. And I'm not with you on this. I think mistakes are going to be made, but that's the way it's always been.
Okay, I'm going to make the what I think is the killer point in my argument now. If each coach, Didi, is allowed one challenge in every game. In other words, you're allowed your challenge, you throw your red cloth on the pitch, that's your one challenge gone. What's wrong with that?
Let me take a killer point. Let me take it apart straight away, Eamon. In American football, there's calls, and a lot of depends on when people go to the ground, whether they lose possession of the ball before the knee or the elbow is down. Yes?
Yes.
And this is most of the time pretty straightforward. In rugby, there's rules. A high tackle, if you grab somebody round the neck, he should be sin-binned or sent off or whatever. So there's rules, and I think they're more complex, as Liam said. In football, in tennis, if the ball is in or out, it's black or white. In football, there is no black and white. And if you have one challenge, for example, as Liam just alluded to, if you have a free kick offence at the halfway line, and 10 seconds later you don't get a free kick, 10 seconds later you lose the ball, 10 seconds later the ball is in the back of the net. Do you go back that far? How far can you go back?
Well, let me say, you wouldn't use if you were a coach and you're both highly intelligent.
Well, if there's a
use it for a
kick
you wouldn't use it for a foul.
What did he say? 20 seconds later, the ball's in the back of your net, and you think your player is being fouled. Do you bring it back that far and say, hang on, I'm challenging that goal?
No. You use.
Well, this is where you don't know where it's going to start and when it's going to stop, Aim.
So how do you use it then, Eamon?
Well, I'll tell you how you use it. You'd use it where a penalty was given against your team, and you felt that a mistake had been made. Don't forget, you've only got one challenge. You could use it for a red card offence, but you'd be restricted. You couldn't use it willy-nilly around the field for fouls and stuff like that. You'd only use it in extremis, where we see every game we see virtually. There is. Would you agree with this, both of you, that almost every big game we see, there is a bad decision that leads to a consequence, i.e. a goal?
Yeah, well, first of all,
I would have to agree with that. I would agree with that.
I think.
Okay, well, now Liam's agreeing.
I'm agreeing that there is at least one decision. We're both talking at the same time. I'm agreeing with you that there's at least one, or maybe more. There could be several decisions in the game that affect the game,
And does it affect...
Certainly, there's always one.
Okay, Didi, go on.
Eamon, so you want to do it to make the outcome of the game fairer, and
yes,
to get the right result at the end of the day.
Yes.
Now, my point would be, if there's a foul or a penalty incident where the decision is not given, or maybe there's a goal scored after a corner where a foul leads to the goal, you can challenge that. But that's exactly my point. If the foul happens 2 or 3 seconds before that, and you can only do it when the goal is actually scored, do you get a fairer result? Because you could be able to use a challenge, when you thought you scored a goal or shouldn't concede a goal. And on the other hand, you use a challenge, and then there's an incident where you lose a ball through a blatant foul, and you can't challenge it because it takes 2, 3, 5 seconds before the ball is in the back of the net. So do we actually, because we always said the luck or the bad decision, the good decision, they cancel each other out over the course of the season, which I still agree. I think, sometimes they're lucky, and sometimes you get decisions your way, sometimes you don't. And do we get a fairer outcome or fairer result if you bring it in? And I'm not too sure about that. So, as I said, if you start going into foul play, I don't think how you would be able to do it, because there's so many incidents. When do you do it? How do you do it? Can you go back 2 seconds, 5 seconds? Is only in the box? And then actually, do you get a fair result? I'm not too sure.
Okay, well, what I would say...
Did he? We were doing the Barcelona game, against PSG a couple of weeks ago, weren't we?
Yeah.
Now, there was 2 penalties in that game. And I rang Eamon after the match, and I said, Eamon, I didn't think the first one was a penalty. I thought Neymar dived. And Eamon said to me, no, it wasn't. It was a certain penalty. The second penalty, I thought that it was a penalty, and he said, no, I think Suarez dived. So that's the area you're going to get yourself in, Eamon.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I just make
you can't call it for clear,
I just make a final point. All of the objections you've raised, I think, could be sorted out if you set up a committee to look at the possibility of a third match official, and then you could come down to saying, okay, it's only for disputed penalty decisions, or red card decisions, not for every foul and not for corners and stuff like that. But
offside, Eamon? Offside? Is he offside when he scores?
Well, I think that's something you'd have to debate. I would be in favour of that. But what my net point is this, that we can't go on, because players will cheat if they think they can get away with it. If you use video evidence, they'll know we're not going to get away with it. And we've got to reverse the culture of cheating and players diving, and we've got to reverse the situation where there's anarchy on the pitch. Guys are trying everything. I mean, they've even...
You're perfectly
You're
right.
onto something else now, Eamon, aren't you? You're onto something else.
But there's one other thing I'd like to say. We know they're all masters at trailing their leg now and buying a penalty, I mean, they're masters at it. How can the referees see it? So that should that not be reviewed?
Yeah, it should be. But the other thing is you could use a challenge. Eamon, you could use a challenge.
Yeah.
And you get it right or you get it wrong, and the challenge is lost, and there's another 1 or 2 decisions where maybe you should have waited with the challenge. So that doesn't mean you get all decisions right unless you review every single incident that leads to a goal or leads to a red card, as they do in American football. I think the last 2 minutes of every quarter.
But you've only got one challenge, You've only got one challenge.
But then you use your challenge, and there's another 2 incidents where you get the wrong decision, which is against you. So you use your challenge, and then you say, well, if we have one challenge, why can't we have 3? Because still there were 2 incidents where we conceded goals or whatever, where we didn't get the right decision. So I don't know how you can do it, and I would stay well clear of going into foul play with the third match official.
Yeah, well, I don't think foul play is the issue. I think the issue is cheating, and cheating to such an extent that referees now are bewildered. I mean, Michael Oliver, who refereed that game on Sunday, is one of the best of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, no wonder soccer's in the state it's in when 2 of its most distinguished former practitioners won't even use technology that every other sport's used.
Well, look, Eamon, that game against Barcelona PSV was one of the most wonderful games I've seen in many, many years. What's wrong with football? Diddy's after saying that Manchester City might have had another penalty, or justly should have been awarded a penalty, I think. But, Liverpool were the better team. They only come out with a draw, Well, that's football.
Okay, I will just say my final point would be that we all know that there's a kind of an explosion of cheating. It's a disease in soccer now at all levels. Kids are doing this as well and emulating people, what they see their heroes doing in the Premier League and the Champions League. And if we don't get rid of it, we're going to seriously damage the game, in my view.
Well, just on cheating, Eamon, just if I can make a point on cheating, I wouldn't be against retrospective punishment on people diving. If you can see clearly on video technology after the game that person has dived or that player has dived, and he got a 3-match ban for cheating, as you call it, I would have no problem with that whatsoever. The same as in serious foul play. Like, players are getting banned. Ibrahimovic, for example, for that elbow he smashed a guy with. They didn't even appeal it, Manchester United. I'm not against that. And if they wanted to bring that in for diving, no problem here.
Didi?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. If you want to bring it in, but then again, it's got to be very, very obvious, because sometimes I think people dive or jump to not risk injury, and I agree with you. There is incidents where people blatantly dive, but then again, you've got to diverse, because there is incidents sometimes where you think he did dive when he just tried to protect himself. So again, there's no black and white, and I think the less we do, I think the better in the better shape the game will be.
Okay, that's the most depressing conversation I've had this week. Let's move on. It is actually, because I can't.
Sorry, we've depressed you, Eamon.
No, I can't think of any two brighter observers, former players, great players, know everything. Watch this this disease spreading. It's a cancer, and unwilling to do anything.
Well, no, that's not what you were on about to start with. You didn't start off with diving, Eamon. You started off on penalty decisions being right or wrong. You know. And Didi and I pointed out that where does it start and where does it end? With all this. And it might not be leave well alone. It might not be all well, but leave it as it is. I think going down this road, you're just going to make everything so much more complex.